post the link like while we talk on Facebook, and then
we're here. Yes, we're up. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Welcome, Floris. Welcome.
Welcome, Alex. Louise.
Yes, you can post links.
Cool.
I feel like this is going to be a profound conversation, if not for anyone else, but for me. But usually these things, if I find it interesting, it's going to be wild. I was thinking about how to introduce you, Floris, and you're one of these magical people that is, the minute we try to define who you are in language, it's like 2D and flat, and just it will never do justice to who you are as a human and to who you are to me. So I'm gonna just, you've got on your bio change wizard, play expert, and founder. And again, it's like, it sounds interesting, but it just doesn't. There's no 3D, 4D, 5D to that. And you have changed my life in profound ways is one way to introduce you.
Blush.
And I met you at Laurence and Carlos's summer camp and was like, who is this man? With Charlie, with 150 of us surrounding you in a big circle, and you were like getting 150 people to be connected and related in about, I don't know how long the opening ceremony was, 10-15 minutes. And you do magic. There was 150 effective near strangers, although there were some people who knew each other, but there was a good 50% of us who didn't know each other. And within the first 20 minutes of summer camp, everyone was connected, the fear was gone, everyone knew everything was going to be okay, and we were kind of excited. And you did that with what felt like magic.
With Charlie.
With Charlie.
Yes.
And with Charlie.
Yeah.
And
it's A, my profession, B, I love it, and that it helps when you have shiny eyes and go, yeah, I love this, and we're cool.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to learn that we often see ego as a problem, but sometimes ego can be very supportive of such things. Like if you want to grab a whole field of 150 people, I must also say it's a size I'm used to and comfortable with. Like 600, it's more difficult. It's a different energy. Or being with one person and in the one room and do the same thing, there's people who are extremely skilled with that. And I might be then, also being Dutch, a little bit too rough. So, yeah, and I love it. That helps.
That shines through. And then just every other exercise you did over summer camp, what you did with me and my community at my summer summit, I think how I introduced you to my community was expect the unexpected, and that's what you do. That 100%, that's what you do.
Yeah, I put it also in my list. As you know, perhaps I told you, but for those who never saw me before, I collect job titles. And so I added the unexpected to my list of job titles I have made money with. I'm now over 100 job titles I've used in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm close to 80 I've made money with. So sometimes a job title fails or doesn't attract, or it's too pretentious or too funny. It's also a thing. So I love the whole job title thing. And for myself, then of course it's extremely hard, because once you have found out you can change your identity or the tag under it, I could here replace Floris Koot with job change wizard or whatever. It has effect how we name and frame things, and I love to play with those things and then see where it leads, which can be surprising and sometimes into deep abysses of misunderstanding.
Brilliant. What do you say to people who are on the serious side and like job titles should be serious and like, how do you do that? Like, because you're so playful and so wide and deep and knowledgeable. Like, it's not playful in a empty, like no depth. It's playful in like a whoa, that was profound. What do you say to people who are very serious? You're welcome.
Thank you for all the compliments. Now I have to live up to them, which is a.
I'm just going to put you up there.
You evil woman. Well, seriousness is a disease. That's one thing. And seriousness also is the wrong assumption, is that seriousness is the opposite of playfulness. The opposite of playfulness is apathy, and depression.
Okay, I love that.
Because play itself is very, very serious. One of my quotes, to quote myself, is play is how nature invented learning. So education, why does education kill playfulness? Because when you play with your whole being. So if I read a text, I'm only there mentally. But when I'm running around on a field, like, let's say children play tag, so we think it's a children's game. But too few people have seriously thought, what are all the things being learned at the same time during play? So there's motoric skills. There's dealing with winning and losing, when you get caught. There is dealing with being hunted or being the hunter, which is, a primal thing for humans to learn. There is children, if tag game gets boring, they will invent and readdress rules. So there is creativity, and there's fairness. So if the fastest always goes for the slowest, children will protest. So there's the ethical balancing to make it work for everyone. As a natural attitude of most children, and some do not abide by that rule, but the natural the natural inclination of most people is to make it work for everyone. And it's very sad that we're in a society where we say, well, that's not so valid, or but that's not a good idea, or that's not how it works. Because if we would follow the inclination of children there to our whole society, we get a much better society. And if we tap the ones that took too much and always went after the weak, harder on the fingers, we'd have a better working society. And it doesn't mean communism, but it means a better understanding of society. Wow, that went indeed.
That went deep fast. That's why I love you.
Yeah.
You said a few words before we came on live, and you said wealth, society, perceptions, and sociobiology. I think we just went there straight away, which is why I love doing a podcast, because there's, like that's what matters, right? It's like, how is everyone? How's the world? How can we do better? In my opinion, it's like you and I especially, and probably anyone listening to this podcast, we're in a position where we can do something different. We're not trying to find food and shelter and water right now. We have everything we need and more than we need. So
we are already among the rich. That's also a thing most people don't understand. We are, if you can listen to this, you belong to the rich. And it doesn't mean that you may have debts on the bank, but you have an internet account. You can listen. You have time to spend. That's a form of wealth. I am incredibly wealthy on a global scale. Well, on the Dutch financial level, I'm quite under par, especially for my age. I should have made it by now, but I played too much around. So here we come to but I'm not so interested. So if I use the word sociobiology just to get there and understand, is that we always try to find universal answers for everyone. We all should go in this direction, but that's not how life works, or societies, or people. We all are born with very different inclinations, and together they make up healthy groups. That's how primitive societies, sitting around the campfire each night, which we did for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and that that time we balanced out to have certain traits in a group. There's always, like you, the beautiful mother who cares about her flock, and it's are we all on board, and are we all getting there, and how can I help to get you to get there, which is a thing that is undervalued in our society. So, Alex, Louise. And on the other, there's the anxious person. Is that a lion in the bushes? Can we trust this stranger? Which is a healthy attitude in nature, but put 200 in a room and you have conspiracy theory. So in modern society, we are not built for that diversity, or the one who is experimenting in a corner is the one who may invent a new bow and arrow or something, or the wheel, but they need to play around, but they might not be interested in, and how would that make money? That's a question we apparently seem to ask immediately after everything. And how does it make money? Whereas I don't know how it's in Wales or the UK in general. I know there's a lot of voluntary work also in the Netherlands. If all volunteers, people who do things for nothing, would do nothing for a whole day, then our society would be more broken than any profession not working for a day. So what we value and how we value it, that we should ask big questions, and also allow people that are not interested in money or too interested in money to both give them space to do their thing, but also at the same time where it's part of a whole system. It's not individuals against each other. Even if you're very, very rich, you still will need a supermarket, a cleaning lady, a school for your kids, people who build your house. There is no, I can do it all on my own. Except for a very few off-the-grid people who don't want to see anyone and make it work. And still they brought probably into nature a lot of stuff that has been made by others.
Yes, if you took a human and naked and just dropped them somewhere, there's a very few people who would A, survive, and B, thrive. Like, it's just not, we're not built for that, are we? It's just not, it's not who we are. And even then, they're then within nature, right? So they're still not doing it on their own, because the plants are growing and the animals are there and the water's flowing and the trees are doing what they do and all the rest of it. So even then, this idea of individuality is crazy.
It is, and there's at the same time, of course, what I'm also saying is we have to look at personal gifts, how you are different from the rest, and where will that shine? How can it shine? But that shine is probably mostly in service of the rest. And then you, like, I once spoke to several surfers. Now, I met one surfer girl who is surfing around the world, and she loves it so much. That's what her thing. That's what she needs to do. I totally support her, flying around the world in planes, going surf everywhere. I forgot her name. I only spoke her once, but I felt this is where you start to shine, But I also met some people who surf to escape a responsibility, to escape their lives, just have the money, are bored out of their wits, but pretend to look cool on social media. And then I think, are they in tune with something deeper? And how can you find it? And shouldn't we all be asking our education to wonder, where do I shine and how do I shine best? And how may that be different from what school expects? Because of schools then, cluster up as into, we all need to show the same skills to succeed, which is weird. Of course, reading and writing, everyone, and little bit of math helps everybody.
And
And
but outside of those three things, then it's like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Because those three things then give people the ability to, learn whatever they want to learn, right, as well. So, but outside of that, there's nothing that's everyone needs to know, surely.
Yes and no. That, whenever I say something, the opposite is also true, I found.
Sure.
Or there's
yeah.
So there's also a good thing. I am chaotic and playful, so it's very good that there are some people who are orderly and structured. I may be seen as the opposite of those people, but together we bring a balance. It's not, if I were Prime Minister of the Netherlands, it would be a mess. If the structured order guy would be the Prime Minister, it would also mess. So therefore, also in politics, you need all these different voices. And what do? Then we fight that to have one side be the winner of all and think they have it all right and the others have it all wrong. It's the balance of the discussion in between where truth arises or choices arise that might be carried by more people, hopefully.
I notice in our community, but it was already coming. I think when I met you, I'd already had a profound realization at 32 when I was financially free that it meant basically not very much because everything else was a car crash. And people who have listened to this podcast before have probably heard that story. But like, okay, wealth tick or money tick, every other area of life.
Yeah.
And so I really got that then. And I think I'm getting it, this is like 11 years on now. I get it on I'm getting it on another level yet again of just how the money, it makes a difference. Like food, shelter, water is important. First, whatever you'd call it, 40 to 60,000 to, make sure everything's okay. After that, it's just a bigger car or more expensive, whatever. There's it doesn't escalate with the more money. And the pervasiveness of what you said earlier about we immediately go, how are you going to make money from that? So, mother, like I've dealt with that as a mother. I found it until I met you and Laurence and Carlos, and then had a session with Charlie a couple of weeks ago. I was finding it really hard to value motherhood. In my head, I knew it's one of the most important jobs on the planet. It's like, it matters. It's valuable, blah, blah, blah. Like all of that. I knew it in my head, but I didn't feel it in my heart. I was like, I know that I should feel like this is valuable, and I just couldn't find a way to get it to be valuable because we distill everything down to an amount per hour. I could get a nanny, or I could put them in childcare, or I could, whatever. And even in some of my coaching sessions, just in the last couple of weeks we've got couples in our community of dealing with, like, they feel like they're in a marriage and they feel like they're individual within the marriage and they're dealing with money separately. And like this, it's so pervasive, this individuality and measuring everything by wealth, that even when we start to be aware of it within my community, getting away from it and really starting to value growing vegetables in my garden, because I could just go and buy them in the supermarket. Why would I do that? Why would I spend all that time growing a courgette when they're, pence in the supermarket?
There I have a very short answer. I once had pancakes made by a man, the best pancakes I ever tasted, head and shoulders above all the rest, and there were some good ones. This was by a man who was married to a woman who invited me to her house with some friends. We were at a social thing like you organized, and he had sown the wheat from which the flour for the pancakes was made. So he had sown them. Wow. Then he had milled the wheat into flour. Then he had done all the steps of the pancakes himself. And on top of that, you could taste the love. Damn, they were good. And so it's hard to measure, but we feel it. The Spanish have a word for this, duende, or in English perhaps something has soul. If you listen to certain muzak, and the other, that has soul, that has it, and this undefinable it, which science keeps looking for the soul in the body, or can't find anything, but there is something it, and some people have it and others don't, and some food has it and others don't. So doing it all together has also a pride, because as you say, the motherhood is one of the most important jobs in the world, and the most shaping and society shaping. That's also where I can tell more about that later, but motherhood is a core profession in our society, but we don't pay it, therefore it doesn't count, and that's a tragedy. Not that it should be paid, and perhaps it should, I don't know, but to not see it as an essential thing that you should train to prepare for, or learn. It's continue your story. I drifted a little bit.
No, that was it. I think you've got the essence of what I'm trying. It's like, how, like, what do you say about it? And you're right, as you were saying that about the wheat and the pancakes, I was like, yeah, because every meal I cook here, where the stuff came out of the garden that I grew from seed, it feels magic. It's like everything in this salad I grew from a seed. Like, it does. It's got that thing. It's got that soul. I think you said something to me a few weeks ago on WhatsApp, which was such a profound thing, because I said I was, I got really sick and I was dealing with what to do and how to do my business, and how to work with the community, and what was the best thing, and how to manage, being a mum and gardening and wanting a farm and all of that. And you said, what a wealth that is, to have the time and the ability to think about that. And I just went, when I heard that, I was like, and it completely switched how I was thinking. Like, before that, it was like, and then you said that, and I just went, yeah, wow, aren't I lucky? And it's like, in that moment, you did that for me, and it's like, how do we do that more and more and more for people, so that we get that, so that we value it?
One thing that you sell, I should, but not consciously, because you think you're working, but you also have often these shiny eyes where you are happy and interested and focused on what you do and loving it. That is part of what you offer. And now, very recently, there was a scientific report came out. So I read it in a short thing on a side thing, but over 20 years, they researched 2,000 people about happiness, or what makes life meaningful, or was it most important. And the essence, head and shoulders above the rest, is relationships. So it's who we are with, who we spend our time with. It's the people that matter for you, and finding people that matter for you, and or communities where you fit. So sometimes you are born in a community that fits less to you, or is not healthy for you. And apparently also, the more we are surrounded by healthy people with fun and gleam in their eye, doing nice things, the more you find yourself doing those things. And the more you are surrounded by people, let's say, to give the awful simplistic drugs and alcohol and depressed, and who also grab each other like, yeah, but you're never gonna amount to something. Yeah, but the world is not gonna change. Then you're in a swamp and you're sinking. And unless you start to swim, and lucky, sometimes it's also pure luck. Careers I once asked a whole room of managers, like there's 100 managers in the room, and I asked, who here is here because they made a nice career path? I have to do this. And silence. And who is here because something strange happened anywhere on the path, a strange phone call. You find a flyer, you meet somebody at a meeting, and he says, well, why don't you look that up or go there? And then we follow that thread because somehow it rings, and then we're on a new path, and somehow it fits us much better. So it's listening to this inner compass, as I call it, is so important, a gift. And other science, so I love it how in modern training often you have to quote scientists a lot, because then somehow it matters more. So
gives it credibility, Floris. Apparently it makes it more serious.
Credibility is so important. I'm learning because I never worked on credibility, and now I start to think, fuck, how do I do this? So I'm learning at the same time. Shit, but it's good to hear that also science starts to say, hey, choices made by intuition in the end are always way often stronger than made by rational thinking only. And then, of course, many people should learn how to distinguish intuition from anxiety. Because if in my brain I imagine something bad and my body says, yeah, then it's my self-imposed fear. But if suddenly my brain goes, my system goes, something is very bad here, my brain goes, why? I cannot see anything, then probably it's intuition. So it's important to learn and follow intuition, inner compasses, because it's somehow there is something on a deeper level that wants to carry us. And that may sound very religious. Trust me, it's not. I hope. It's personal experience.
Yeah.
And you follow that thread too.
Yeah. Yeah. And in many different, like even in houses, like even being in this house, we walked in and I just went, this is the house. I can't explain it like that. It's like a knowing.
Yeah.
Like, and we could rationalize it afterwards, but really it wasn't, we were looking for a farm and we ended up with a city house, but it makes complete sense now. It's like, oh, it's on the way to the farm. It's like the stepping stone that makes sense because it makes sense for our lives and the children and the location and all that. But at the time it didn't really make sense. It was like, we're looking for a farm, this house. But we just knew, we just both went, oh, this is the house. What?
Yeah.
And then
and the garden is big enough to test and learn how your farming skills and also how much you really want that, or do you want to be more out of the city in just a bigger house with a bigger garden but not a farm.
Yeah absolutely. No, it's magic. And I think it's a farm. I've been working out whether I could get a pig in the woods in the back of next door neighbor's garden. So I think it's a farm, and I know I probably can't. But absolutely. And just even learning on a micro level where there's not a lot at stake, like putting in garlic and strawberries in a bed out there, just going, oh, is that going to work? Let's see what happens. All of that. Yeah.
And then the new thing is, of course, that you put them, see which plants fit together with which plant to let them grow in between each other. So you get these wild, much more wild, because the old fashioned way, neat rows, etc. We need healthy ecosystems, and so more people do that. My parents always had a front garden where they did all kinds of seeds mixed, and half the year everyone would hate our garden because it would be a mess of dying and rotting plants, but every spring we had the most biggest mix of flowers and diversity in
Ever.
our
Yeah.
front garden, which everybody looked jealous at and went, wow, how have they done this? Well, we gave nature a space to do nature. And
yes, there's something very, I was, because of having the garden, I was like, why do we grow stuff in rows? And I was looking it up because it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not like it's the complete opposite of nature. And it's because conventional gardening has machines, and machines need rows. But then that's filtered down into the garden as well.
No, the rows started before the machines.
Okay.
That's, rows of beans. It's where you can
just for ease of, it's all the same.
Fast work. But so I not too long ago saw a TED talk of a Native American woman.
Yeah.
And she described how only very, very recently scientists discovered and have to admit that indigenous Americans had their own farms, but since they were not squares, they couldn't recognize it because it would be fields where let's say 3 to 5 things would grow together. Because they have learned, indigenous wisdom has learned, that these plants would do best together, and but it was so interwoven and no sharp boundaries that no Westerner expecting a fence around it would recognize it. So also this is how warped we are by our normal. I remember the first time I went away to a foreign country on my own, and I came back and thought, all the little red houses we have in the Netherlands, they're so awkward. My normal had changed to strange, and it took traveling to another country to see. My perception is limited by my upbringing, and most people don't realize, because that's not how it's done. Sorry, that's not how it's done. Yeah, but that's good for foreigners. These kind of remarks and those kind of sayings, just to go from one topic to another, also hide a lot. Or recently, a minister said to children who made a climate protest, said, well, you better first get a diploma, then you can. So it was a sentence to actually say the same as that's not how it's done, to close the discussion rather than be inquisitive or let yourself be touched. And mothers, their task is to be touched and touch. And so here's another thing about how important motherhood is. Back to biosociology. Apparently, if a psychopath is born in a healthy, warm family, they may use that psychopathic capacity for the benefit of humanity. Many surgeons, for instance, have psychopathic traits, because to open up a body with a knife and then think, let's take this out, is a kind of madness. I would go, oh, God, blood, panic, and to disconnect from feeling and just do the job very calmly is a psychopathic trait, but well adjusted to society. But when you get an awful upbringing, a bad mother who keeps on saying, does it bring in money all the time? Then we get the bastards who run Wall Street and run society in the ground and heat up the planet, because there's still some millions to be gained from it. So the very small local upbringing has influence on global scales, because millions of others are lost and bring up children who do not feel part of a community. And then we create myths that we all also bombard each other with, and we believe, like many children believe, they're too fat or ugly or stupid, or because we get the perfect picture all the time. And then many mothers also are defenseless because you are one voice against what apparently the whole world thinks is normal. So indeed, critical thinking is usually an essential skill in combination with warmth and love from motherhood. By the way, for the viewers, I have no children, but I loved my students.
Yeah.
And I could see how that would make a difference. So you're doing very important work, Alex Louise.
And all the parents listening. I think what's interesting as well, how, I mean, even on the news in the UK last week with the new budget, there's a budget for childcare for children from 9 months old. We will pay for that. The same money can't be allocated to a mother who doesn't want to go to work, who wants to stay at home. You said earlier about maybe we could pay for that, maybe we shouldn't have to, maybe we find a way. It's like we can find a way as a society, Western society, to get mothers back into work when their children are 9 months old, but we can't find a way to support families so that the children can be brought up by parents who want to stay at home. I get that there are people who want to go back to work. This isn't like a make wrong of, people who choose that, but there's a lot of people who feel they have to go back to work because they can't afford to live. So from the very beginning of a family, there's just this, like the way the game is set up is almost, it's not impossible. And I think anyone who really wants it can do it. Like we've done it. I worked from home. I could, I'd created enough money to buy support so I could do both. And the both was because I wanted to, not because I had to. But it's like the way we set the game up as a society is like completely anti what people want to do. It's this weird kind of like this importance of getting back to work and the economy and growing the economy and all of that at the cost of that to our children and how they are is
it's hugely damaging. Like there are also some things not so good at indigenous upbringing, but they have a lot of advantage over us because one, we are not in age groups. We put also children in strict age groups, and we all expect them to take the same step at the same time. Whereas among indigenous peoples, if you say, I want to go hunt with Papa, you go hunt with Papa. Whether you're 5 or 18, doesn't matter. It's when you feel you're ready. Also, children walk around. We see a lot of children walk around with kids because they learn motherhood from young by being participation in the whole process. What we do is we take everything apart, and then this also makes that less people are interested and invested in bringing children up together, because apparently children who grow up in communities where they meet different adults, a lot of different adults, grow faster. They are better socially skilled because they have to adapt to different people. When your parents are the adults you ever see, except for your teachers, that will limit your scope of responses, and you develop those in your first 12 years. So that's there, and then also by the society think, but you need to work. there's something crazy about it, and it's the question: what value? Let's ask this crazy question: what value do sick elderly people have in a home? What value do they have to society? So if you only look financially, you see they are a burden to society, as are everyone who costs money. Then even teachers cost money because they are a burden to society. They may create better workers, but they themselves are producing nothing but potential workers. But still, it's a cost. But if I would take all, let's say we kill all elderly, in all the homes, they're a burden, they're a cost. You're shocked, just by saying this?
Yeah, it's just like, yeah.
Because it takes away our humanity, and especially our parents or the people we know and love would also be gone. And love is and loving relationships are fundamental to our society, and they make a society healthy, and investing in them makes a society healthy. We can see how wrong this goes in the United States, where people say, I'm not paying healthcare for other people, I'm not sick. This means that if somebody gets sick and can't get healthy because they don't have money, it means that they also cannot do shopping anymore. It means that they cannot contribute to society anymore. It means that society as a whole is weakened. So everyone who is weak and not healthy weakens the society as a whole. So keeping and making everybody as healthy as possible should be a focus of a government, not that you have to do yourself. And no, government can help to keep everyone happy and healthy, because it means that you have way more healthy people who are willing and understand how important their capacity to contribute is, even if that is working, the local bakery or selling plastic bags, although I'm against selling plastic bags. But hey, somebody's got to do it, or is doing it. Too many are doing it. But is that money helping that we make on plastic bags? No, it's not. Motherhood is helping more than selling of plastic bags or petroleum to plastic bag makers. This is also warped. If I poison society and get paid very well, I matter, and if I help, then I matter less. There should not be a quote 500. There should be a quote best people, or we can I don't measure it. That's a problem, but
yeah, that's the difficulty, right? Is the measuring it, and then we can't measure it because a lot of these things are priceless. And then the irony being, then it's priceless, and then it doesn't have value because there's no price on it. It's like, no. And even what you're saying about, if you say older people in homes, even that, the way we've done that, we've got children in schools segregated in their ages. We've got older people in a home segregated over there. We put people who we perceive as bad and wrong in a prison all together over there. And then everyone's segregated instead of being all together, which is, again, wild. I'm not saying have prisoners run schools. Like,
yeah, well, there's an elderly home in the Netherlands in front of a school, or has a school in front, and it's better for the elderly and for the kids. They sometimes go into the elderly home. There's an elderly home where students, because there was a shortage of student rooms, the students can hire a room in the elderly home, and they interconnect, and both sides learn from it and are interested. And there is a certain wisdom I'm learning, because I'm getting older, that you just get from paying a little bit attention and getting older. And there's an overview, and the overview gets bigger and expansionally, and it's hard to put into money, and money also becomes less important. So on the market, it doesn't count. And I know there's people my age or even older who are still hunting money like fierce tigers because it's the thing they're born for, or totally warped because they have an empty thing inside they need to fill with more. But like these crazy questions. So if we look at the whole money thing in society, how is it, other big question, that if we get a economic downfall, we have enough people who are willing to work, we have enough food, we have enough means of distribution. Still, because the money is gone, apparently some people get hungry, like the people who are hungry in Great Britain and or even have food insecurity in the Netherlands. It's astounding. We are the second, Netherlands is the second most agricultural producer of the world, or turnover of the world. Second of the world, tiny country. The amounts of food going through the Netherlands or coming out is insane, and still people have not enough healthy food to eat, or enough to eat. What the F? And it's, once again, as I say, it's weakening the roots of the society as a whole, because people feel unfairness. They feel they have no means, they have no liberty to think about things, ask questions, they feel pushed. So for those who want to be in control, people who are hungry is great. You know, they won't protest, they have to get back to work. That's a pressure. It's a way to have, and now I go political, it's to have needs served, like the Middle Ages, but now it's a wage contract and you chose it voluntarily. So, hey, you're not a serf, you're free to go. Only you can't afford to, so you have to stay.
So you're not free.
Yeah. So all these things, so we talk it seems we talk in many directions, but it's all about how personal life, I think, how society, how the rules of society, perceptions we have about it, how our biology is all interconnected, and we struggle and swim in all those things at all times. And that's also why it's strange when you ask a politician for a socio-economical question and they answer, because they studied sociology, with a sociological perspective only, that many people feel, yeah, but that's not everything or not it. Or ask a psychologist, what's the problem? Well, it's because the individual needs to develop a certain kind. And then you think, yeah, but in the context. So we need to look at our context we're in, our personal perceptions and beliefs, our personal capabilities, societal opportunities, rules, and dance with that. We're in a dance, Alex Louise. You're dancing. And if you are able to dance with it and see it as a dance, you can have more fun. And like me, for a while, I changed my job title every month because, hey, you can. And then see which one works better, like on LinkedIn. So many things we think are stuck are not stuck at all. It's also often our limiting self-beliefs. Yeah, but I have to come with a clear thing that I am and that people understand. Otherwise, it won't sell. And then it doesn't work for me.
What do you say to someone's listening to this and they feel really stuck and they don't feel like they can leave a job or follow, and you know they've got their what would be their version of having shiny eyes, and they just feel like it's so far, like it's just a daydream or a pipe dream. I think Grant, who you know from the summit, it took a couple of years for him to say, but that's just a pipe dream. And we were like, that's what we're talking about. That's what you need to do. What do you say to people who are just stuck in working, they've got small kids, everything feels, and I'd put myself in some places in this bracket, you know, I've got kids in school and I'm like, I don't really think school's that great. How do I deal with this? What do I do? Like, how do people start when it occurs? Like everything we've just talked about, to me, and probably people listening, it occurs as so overwhelming. It's just like, you know, I look around and just go, everything's a shit show. I don't know where to start. And that's also not true where it's not true for me, because it's like I am starting and I'm doing, you know, just this podcast is like, it is the way to start going, oh, what? But how do people start and not be overwhelmed by what feels like the enormity of what they're up against, because there's such big systems at play?
One, it's a shit show, and being positive is the only healthy medicine, I think. And still, we need some black, bitter people say it's not going to work. As long as they do it with joy and enjoy the art of being bitter, fine. But if they're just putting other people down because they failed, no, that doesn't work. So that's one little thing. Another little thing is I once was asked for a consultancy to make a role play game where things would go wrong. So I created the worst company ever. And in the play, we found out what the worst company ever is. And the worst company ever is not one that is exploding where everybody gets fired. That's the result of something. The worst company ever is where there's maximum pain working inside that company without change happening. And that means that a lot of people are always clinging to the hope that it might change. A friend of mine said to me, Floris, I have a new chef and he's terrible. I said, what are you going to do? And he said, well, I don't know. I can either look for a job elsewhere or I'm going to wait 3-4 years and then he'll be gone. And I think, I know 10 things you could do. He said, yeah, Floris, but you. This already, you know, is a very limiting self thing. Yeah, Floris, but you can do that. No, it's about allowing yourself that you can change and realizing that the stuckness and the hope is harming you more. I have a friend also who got burnout because she worked for 10 years under an insufferable boss for a very good organization she believed in. So she was hoping, but she ended with a burnout and not capable to work for many years because she was broken by this terrible boss. So if you are in a situation that hurts more in an unhealthy way, you need to go find ways to get out and work hard for it. That's and what then and where then and how. I've never had the responsibility for children, so there I cannot give good advice because I have given myself a lot of freedom because I have no children. I thought, hey, if I have no children, it didn't happen, then I should allow myself to use that free space. But with children, but at the same time, for children, my parents once asked us as children, what would you rather have, a new house or that we buy a car? A bigger house or a car? And we as children decided for a bigger house. So my father never had a car. My father also then later died very young because he was suffering his job in a terrible way and didn't ask us, should I take the risk? We might have said, yes, dare something, even if we have to live smaller for a while. follow your heart, because you feel it's hurting. I have a friend who lived on a one room. He broke up with his girlfriend and he lived on one room, and his son lived with him for a year. So an adult man and his son in one room for a year to get out of it. But he chose to do that, and his son supported this. If you realize this is temporarily, everything in life is a phase. There's no for the rest of your life, except if you're in a hospice, but mostly life is not this. The house you live in is temporary. The clothing you wear, the body you wear is temporary. Everything is a phase. When you're 12, things are not a phase. This is the whole world depends on me getting that one thing, ice cream. And when you're older, I'll get another one. So one is to realize that being stuck and feeling stuck might be more damaging than being in a disaster area, and in movement like fire. Also, in 2008, all the people who were fired from the Lehman Bank, that one of the few banks that really tumbled over. Most of the people 1.5 years later were way more happier with life and satisfied with life than when they were still trying to keep the bank running, because they believed in the fairy tale, and then they had the time and space and necessity to think, what more can I do? There's, because of growing elderly people, there's an enormous amount of jobs being created, but mostly perhaps in sectors you would not choose so easily yourself. But I think everybody can live with a smaller house, smaller car, and a more satisfactory job. And if you do such things together, and choose it together, and carry it together, and support it, like you are very different from your partner, I noticed, but he supports you in what you do, and that's
and likewise, like I support him in what he does, right?
And that makes it workable. That's gold. Also, may not be easy all the time. Your house may not be easy. I think it's not such an easy house, but it's a choice. And if you live in a choice, you say, I choose this and to do this, then it's already way more endurable than when you suffer a situation and I have no choice. Even the thought, okay, I do not dare to run away from this terrible job. I stick with it because I believe this is my best option at the moment. That already can relax a little bit, because then it's your choice to be there. And sometimes you can play with things. I'll give an example. I met a woman who was running the magazine for a company, the company magazine, on her own. So not too big company, but still they have a company magazine, and she's on her own, the company magazine. And she was a creative and hated her job. It was terrible, boring, because company magazines are boring. And I said to her, why don't you make it the company magazine that you dream of? Why don't you go for it? If they fire you, you don't fit there, and you're happy anyway to be gone. And if they love it, you created your own dream job, and something you can also show elsewhere to, hey, this is what I also can do. Whenever I get an assignment, I always think my first question is, what's my adventure in this? What's my adventure in this? What am I, do I want to experience and experiment with? And that also means that I'm always often motivated if I do my whatever I do, which is quite diverse. I'm always motivated because I have a fun little thing for myself also in it. And I think work in general should also be organized to have more meaning. Like many people feel they're in bullshit jobs. So many of them are superficial and not necessary. We would have a society with more trust and less focused on what works most efficient, but more what if you grow beans and you just have to pick the beans, but you also one day a week can sell the beans on the market. It would already feel so much more rewarding, because then you meet the customers that the beans are grown for. If you never meet them, only do the picking.
Yeah.
So it's also think how for people who run businesses, how to make it more interesting for everyone, how to be in touch with what do we do it for. And if you can't find anything, you probably have a shitty company for a shitty purpose with a shitty organization.
And the difference between choosing something and feeling like we have to, it changes everything, even though the situation might not even change, right? It's like actually looking there going, I love that. What's my adventure in this? And actually, as a company owner, Owen last week just completed on buying a waste management company, a skip company. It's like all of his Christmases have come at once. Big machines, lots of rubbish. I don't know how that's the stuff dreams are made of, but it's the stuff his dreams are made of. Probably because the rubbish gives the big machines something to do. So it's like, you know, and there's 10 employees and they deal with rubbish. Like all of them now, they all deal with rubbish all day long. And it's really interesting when you say that. It's like how to make, and it's actually very meaningful work. Like if no one picks up the rubbish, we've all got a big bloody problem. And yet we don't treat rubbish. Everyone just goes, oh, it's a rubbish job. Like, don't want to deal with it. Don't want to think about it, And yet when people are connected to the difference they make, it's huge. I mean, even in the waste management world now of actually not just burying everything in the ground, like that makes a big difference when we actually pick through things and sort them and organize things and yet as a sector it's seen as
and remember that one of the richest persons ever was a guy Crassus, a Roman wealthy guy who made his money from human urine. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
He collected human urine on many spots in Rome, and he used the urine was used to work with leather, to make leather supple.
Of course, for tanning.
Tanning. So people would pee for free in his big, bowls.
Yeah.
And he collected pee and used it for tanning, and it made him extremely rich. And on another example, I would say I got just after COVID, I got sick. So I got corona. I got COVID, and I had 5 extra months because of how it affected my body to be alone at home. I wasn't allowed to walk the stairs. I could not go to shops.
Yeah.
Which also asked me the question, how can I make this time fun and useful for myself? So one was acceptance. I had to accept, hey, I got, and I didn't know when it started, but I knew it would at least be 2 months. It became 5 of extra lockdown for myself. But at least I could have visitors, which did make a difference. But also, I thought, what can I do? So I started working on game design and writing, because this is what I could do. So it's also, what can I do in my situation? How can I make meaning for myself? So it's not only meaningful for the world, but also how can I play with my situation and get the most out of it? To me, making a puzzle seems a waste of time. Creating my own puzzle feels more interesting. And that's also not for everybody, because some people puzzle because it calms their mind. It's a form of meditation. Perfect, go for it. So it's also, once again, individual people, individual answers. At the same time, there are some universal rules in how to make it your choice what you do, because it's your time, your life. You have one, as far as we know, and at the same time, it is in connection with other people, and people shine most when they feel how it helps other people. That's at least I would think. If my students would touch me, if they would have an end presentation that got me teared up, I realized also when that happened that actually, if I get teared up by my students, fuck, that's healthy. That's I want them to see them shine. That's, I'm normal. Yeah, I'm normal. So it's very weird to think such a little thing is. But I think many people have that. Parents, when your children shine, you cheer up when they do something beautiful to each other. They're human.
Yeah. Well, even on my desk right now, I've got a Mother's Day card that Charlie drew, and it's like the best card I've ever had, like hands down. It's just like. And I thought the red things were hearts, and he said, "No, Mummy, they're tulips."
I could see they were tulips.
Yeah, he said they're all flowers, and it was just like, even now I look at it, I'm just like, I can't throw this card away. It's just magic.
But you should even don't throw it away. Give it back to him when he's like 25. Yeah. Because that's also beautiful. I got some children drawings, I don't know where, but I got some children's drawings that my mother collected and wrote the age with it. So I could see my own growth in it. And once again, to create space for these touching moments, that's where we are humans. It's also that simple. And if we take that away or feel it should not be there because we have no time, money, or then things get ugly. And so I now have the time and space to think about these things. I hope somebody likes it, and it's a little bit all over the place, but and at the same time, go.
No, I was just going to say, the thing I love about going all over the place, and the reason I do this podcast so long, is that we're surrounded now with just snippets and shorter pieces, and scrolling on social media and all of that. And actually, people like this. These conversations matter. There will be. I don't know. I think that's what I love about. We'll never know the impact really of anything. It's like you left me that really simple voice message a few weeks ago saying what a wealth that is to have to be able to think about those problems. And it was like wow. And it's the same with these podcasts when people listen and start to, I think we don't in general give enough time to think things out and talk things through and understand and go deep and wide. And I think it's really important to do that. And the beautiful thing about podcasting is that people can listen when they're walking the dog or cooking or driving or whatever, to something that is a deeper conversation. And for me as well, if this just changes one person's life where they go, I didn't realize I had a choice. And then they change. And then because they change, someone else sees them change. And then the whole thing ripples out. Because what we're talking about, everyone's dealing with. And I don't know that everyone is explicitly aware with what they're dealing with on a day-to-day. Like how they're surrounded by structures that are almost anti-human, even though we created them. You know, like people are struggling, but they're not sure why. They can't quite put a voice to it.
I invented a word for this, which is logic entropy. So
Okay.
it means how we suffocate reality with things that once were a good idea, and building on the logic of that, stacking new logic on top of old logic, we get more and more into insanity. Like very good example in education. If you want to be a surgeon, it's good that you are tested. You get a final test and we can see you know how to be a surgeon. Good idea. So to make the exam very well, it's good that you are tested to, if you see, are you ready to do the exam? And of course, schools then think, hey, but the exam is the defining thing. So we should prepare and learn to prepare for tests. So we need to be ready test because the test matters. So then we also do it in high school and for every subject separately. And because tests are so important and prevalent, primary schools also then take more tests, because tests are making the difference if you will succeed in your educational career. So you have to start and do a lot of tests early, because the better you're at being tested, the better results you get. So now we're at the level that in kindergarten we start to test children and give them tests. And it's insane. But it's all derived from the logic. A test is a healthy thing to measure educational progress. And it's how it works. So you better prepare parents. And many children struggle because they all pressure each other to succeed in a system as it is, and don't feel the space and time to question things as they are. And this goes very deep, because it's not only the outer system that's effed up, it's also the inner system. I give a lot of training to managers. So sometimes there's a manager, or not sometimes, a lot, too many, who they're not there. So one of the things they need to be doing in their job is to take time to stand in front of a window, look out, and think through a problem. Thinking through a problem is part of their work. But especially with the Dutch Calvinists, they do not dare to stand in front of a window, because if they stand in front of a window for 10 minutes, people might think they're doing nothing. And it's to be seen doing nothing would make other people think they were lazy and would perhaps influence their opinion of them. So they prohibit themselves to take time to think about things. You better sit behind the machine and do things. So taking time to think about things is a very healthy thing for yourself and others. And of course, one of the things you could be thinking is, our society is fucked. And that is also for many people a scary thought, because if our society is fucked, what do I do? And this is
scares the shit out of me. That's not a good question for me.
Yeah, but it's a question we have to ask. Anyway,
we have to, right? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what I'm asking.
And then you can ask. Yeah, and then you have to ask yourself, what can I do and what's my role in this? So my role is to try to make change in education, write about it, come up with different ways to teach without testing, more play, etc. And also wake people up in businesses to feel human again. And there is some request for that, not as much as I would hope. But since I'm currently financially independent, I can go for where my love lies. And and I think it's very important that we take our time to question things and think through, and also how we are limiting ourselves and our possibilities.
Mm. I think I might have lost Floris. You've frozen, Floris. I don't know if you can hear me.
Again, it's a
Are you back?
dance, but we have some interference in the connection. Do you have it?
Yeah, I think you're back. It froze for a bit, but you are here. It's okay.
Okay, yeah. You freeze sometimes also a little bit, or I have the black screen with the.
Yeah.
Sorry, people. It's internet.
Sorry, everybody. Internet tech.
Internet tech.
I think the other thing as well with things like schools, it's been one of my foraying lately, as I think I told you, looking into microschooling and what do I do? Like, it was when you said, what can I do? What's my role in this? That's been a big question for me lately when I'm going, we've put our kids in a private school, so we have a certain amount of control of where they've gone to school. And still, I'm looking at it going, it's not what I thought it was going to be, like everything that we talk about testing and this and that. And I see, Charlie has a huge amount of adults around him in this house because of how we live and who he spends time with, and has, we're very blessed to have lots of grandparents around, even great grandparents. And then he goes to school and I watch him struggle, because then he's treated like a child rather than, like you said, the indigenous population, if you're 5 and you want to go hunting with your father, that's fine. And he kind of has that at home. He's been on the roof with Owen up the scaffolding, but then at school, there's this, you're 5, you're a child, you must conform. And it's almost, I don't know if it's worse for him, but it feels like it, because at home he has so much agency, and then in school he has to do this thing, and this dance as a parent going, what is my role in this? Is it setting up a school? Is it implementing things in and around the school day that he does have? All of that. It's
a choice. Once again, this is a choice for you. And for him, so already you're aware it's not him who's struggling and can't cope with the system as it is. You see it's a system as it is that is hurtful.
Doesn't work.
Too many parents worry about their child. It's too boring for him, or it's too stressful for him, or they see their kids suffer in school, but don't question the school. And I also see too few parents then being individualists as they are. My kid is struggling. Yeah, I bet 80% of the parents in your class have the same thing, and you should have a meeting with all the parents and get them talk together and see if they recognize this. Also, the system is, the teacher is probably panicking because she's trained to deliver a certain result at the end of the year on a certain level. I remember when I learned to read, the first days I struggled, and at the end of the week I had read the whole book. But nobody noticed, because who cared? At the same time, I never learned to do mathematics in my head. I always failed those tests because abstract thinking about numbers that have no meaning for me doesn't work for my brain. I only discovered in my 30s that my brain doesn't do that. But nobody or was interested about why is he struggling. No, you have to learn the better tricks in education. So our brains are quite very different. There are people whose brain cannot make images. If you imagine a red apple, they cannot see it. You have to show them a red apple for them to have the image. This is how different brains are, and also how different development processes are. So schools should be able to cope with way more diversity and stimulate diversity. And most teachers don't know how. And if we don't make this part of the conversation, the suffering will stay, because 2 other reasons why schools operate this way is they're operated so we can measure the progress, not to create progress. No, we need to be able to measure progress. That's why all the tests are there. Secondly, it's to train obedience to adults and a system. So a little bit of struggle from children with some awful teachers is a good thing, because you learn how to deal with difficult humans. It's part of life, and you have to learn. But if it's the whole school, then something is very, very wrong, and we need to, this needs to be questioned and challenged, because we may not need obedient workers much longer. Who have been drilled to behave within the system. When AI does, even jobs like accountancy are gone soon. Artist jobs are disappearing. So that means that a lot of work is going to be lost by machines. And then we have to say, are we played free from the burden of work, or are we a burden to all the owners who have now a lot of unemployed people that need to be fed but deliver no money, to the system? So once again, this is a very big thing. And so in schools, we need to train and start train people, and also everybody should be thinking how. And that's also your work, has this. How can I relate to people as individuals? How can I be with people in conversation? Because those moments of personal contact and touch, that's what machines not yet can do. We can make a therapist AI. How are you, Alex Louise?
It's already here, apparently. I've not tried it.
Yes.
It already exists.
Do you want to say something more about it, Alex Louise? But the insynchronities is, I don't know if that's the right word, but in your normal human people conversations are also what help us shape and become sharper with each other. And I think for now, to sit around the table with your whole family and an AI, and then consider that one part of the family because it's so warm and loving. Not yet, but for poor lonely people, this will be solved, and the poor lonely people will get then more, and they go crazier. And when we notice the impact for the world, it'll be too late, and still people will start defending that they need to keep selling them because it's so important for society. This is also the crazy.
And we're already seeing the impact of social media on our children, and it's just been unbridled and let loose, and just kids being given phones. We don't let them drive, we don't let them drink, we don't let them take drugs, we don't let them vote. There's lots of things we don't let children do, and yet we hand them a smartphone. I'm talking, generally. I don't give my kids one. They get given a smartphone with access to anything and everything, and off they go. And social media and all of that comparing and all of these false pictures of what life's like, and it's it's already devastating our.
And therefore also critical thinking is so important to see what's fake. I recognize more and more people on the street with fake lips, fake, And I go, my God, it's so ugly and so young. So young, you are also using so heavy facial uplift. What the and these phones, and it's mental health is also going down, especially among young people. Suicides among young people going up. So once again, the question: what can I do in a system that is crushing? In a job that is crushing is an essential question, and once again I come back to and the realization that it is crushing is talk to people who are in the same situation of you and see that you're not alone. Stay optimistic and do what you can in a way that fits you. Play, see it as a dance where choose to be where you are or choose to make a difference. Very famous wise quote is change what you can and accept what you can't, and wisdom is to know the difference. It's about challenging things, because if you don't speak out, everybody. So also, once again, to the biological level, we can see in the Dutch right-wing thing, so many people say, because Dutch right-wing parties say things that the far right in the America is saying, who are definitely very crazy and on the verge of fascism, if they have not crossed the boundary, is that if enough people say it, people start to believe it, because apparently everybody says it. So we also feel safer when, as a herd, as a human herd, when everybody says it, apparently it's like this. And to therefore saying sometimes, well, I wonder about it, I have questions about it, is essential to say, hey, it doesn't have to be, or we have a choice. Because a lot of people who are making the difference are not in the news. This is, I think, an extra bit of hope for everyone. An incredible amount of positive change makers are not in the news. And why are they not in the news? For very simple reasons. They are you can't make money of them because they are not a problem. So they're not in the news because they're not a problem. They're doing cool things. They are doing cool things, but not in a way that makes big money or has big visible impact. Therefore, it doesn't count in the economic calendar. For politicians, they don't count because they are not a big enough group to influence voters, although slowly they start, as we see that some
it's coming
and greener. It's coming. But there are millions of change makers, like Great Britain has a lot of place where there are, off-grid communities, experiments with agriculture, experiments with living together in different forms, alternative villages. Europe, in Netherlands, less so because we have less space, but there's a lot of even high industrial agricultural experiments that try to take out poisons out of agriculture, which is so important. Get rid of all the poisons, because in my youth there were so many insects and they're all gone. I remember that if you drove down the highway, your whole front shield,
car would be covered
with green drap of dead insects. And now
nothing.
When I was young, I have stood in a cloud of butterflies. So I was in a cloud of like 2 meter high as a kid of yellow butterflies dancing around the pool, and to be in that, amazing. And if I see one, I'm already happy.
We see 1 or 2 butterflies here and we're like, wow. When I was a kid, we had a buddleia and it was covered in butterflies. It's just
so this is, and I think and then the corporations, they push the government, but first measure that it's us. Where I think anything that damages nature as it developed for millions of years, stop it and try to find another way that will regenerate nature. Regenerative design becomes a more and more important term, because sustainability also got a nasty meaning we slow down how quickly we damage everything, and we think that will be okay. So each time you see the biggest system is sick, and only by making a change and trying to make a change and asking questions, you can be part of the change. And there are millions of people part of that change, and some will use very different terms than I use. I love the word current also, solar punk. Just Google images, solar punk, and you get image, and you'll understand. Yeah, if that's how society looks in the future, I'm all for it. That's imagination. But instead, we trap post-apocalyptic things as if that's the only choice. So there's a lot of good news from great people, but mostly they work because they are not being noticed enough, or there's no rent money to be made or profit to be gained from noticing them. Unless you're a big company and a few are very successful and they create something that you can sell, then suddenly they notice.
Yes, that's a really good point about there's lots of people doing great things. Just because we don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. For sure.
And they are there because part of those circle. You're part of the circle of the people doing great stuff. And there are many of those circles. I'm part of several of those circles, and some don't even know the other exist. Or they don't recognize, this is also a thing, they don't recognize that they are on the same playing field. So spiritual people, the hippies, they say everything is one. And the ecological people who work in agriculture say everything is one and interconnected. They say the same thing, but they think the one thinks the others are too pragmatic, practical in the earth, but has no depth. And the other things, the others are windy, up in the air, floating. But there's a lot of people in between those worlds who start to recognize they are saying the same thing, but approach it from a different direction. But actually, it's about the same interconnectedness of everything and how to do, once again, the dance. And to be part of the dancing people also is much more fun. So for those who are listening to this, if you meet and talk to a lot of those people, they have an enthusiasm, they have purpose, they feel they matter. And that's cool, to have that feeling. I matter. Just because I am who I am in my way. Can you say this?
Yeah.
Alex, please.
Yeah. What? Say it. You want me to repeat it back?
Yeah.
Say it again. I matter because I am who I am.
Who I
Is that
am.
what you said? Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting saying it. It's like, oh, that feels odd. And also the really for me personally, like the journey I'm on is how it matters so much, and also it feels like just not enough, like there's so much needed, like that getting, again, I think this is probably a dance between intellectually and the soul, of getting that I know intellectually that if each individual does their bit, problem's solved. And yet it also at the same time feels so insignificant. It doesn't feel enough. It's like, it's not big enough change, or I look at
you're in the Dutch we have the expression, I don't know if it exists in English, I'm just a drop on a big hot plate of iron. One drop on a plate of hot iron. But when it starts to rain, and like in the UK, from where I'm sitting, I can see that the people being fed up with Sunak and the Tories and how they are robbing the country, actually, I think, is growing. And that doesn't mean that the left is the answer, but I think, so I see that new political movements may rise, and one is the fear movement, which means even further to fascism, because then strong men will solve it all, because that's, or it's people who say, hey, we all need to be more involved more and take more responsibility for our part in it. Because people who are saving the woodpeckers in some English village, they are part of the system of change, but just seems silly protecting 3 woodpecker nests in a village in a little forest. But they're not alone, and they're part of something bigger, where and so we should not see those people all as different from us, but as collaborators with us who protect things that they hold dear. I used to think, every people going to the North Pole to protect some puppies, ice bears, good that they do it, but bigger issues. 200 puppies, seal puppies, but now I see it. They all matter. All these organization initiatives matter, because together they are a global movement, and it's big, and that gives me hope, and helps me hope, and to I mean, you can vote, Alex Louise. You can study. That wasn't possible not even 150 years ago. It may have gone slow, and it may have been a fight, but it's possible. If you have a different opinion in England, you are not being shot yet, I hope. There is a healthcare system. It may be rotten, but try live in a country without. In the US, you can die because you can't afford healthcare. I had a friend who had to fight cancer and had to fight the healthcare system at the same time to get the help she needed. She died. It could have been either it would be probably both, and the system and the cancer were both killing.
Yes, and we've come a long way in all of that. It's not, it's not all bad. And yes, almost feels like the pendulum is swinging. Like, yes, we have healthcare, but now it's better than, like you say, it's better than no healthcare. So it's also not that bad. Like it's just people don't have to think about it in the UK. We just don't.
Yeah, it's just. I heard a beautiful expression. Even many poor people have in their home more personal possessions than a king had in the Middle Ages.
Yes, I've heard that one too.
In my phone, I have more computer power than the biggest computer of the American government in the 1950s. And I own it. I have more freedom to say what I want. Also, hey, it's easy. I'm white and I'm an old white guy. But a lot of people can say what they want. And we even might sometimes be scared how many people are free to say what they want and what they say then, and we use it with. That's a different discussion, I think. But and it's also weird. This is also one of the society thing. Just a small side step. When I turned 50, people start to value what I said more. It was so weird. Like a white man in his 50s, So I could feel the entitlement. The white man he must know what he's doing, especially in companies. This guy, he's in his 50s and he talks like fire, and when I said the same things 10 years before, people would, you might need more realism. And now I've had for the first time, so it's also age, a young kid going, yeah, but you're old, so that counts less, what you think. This is also, so this is a very societal thing, how we behave to certain age groups. It's we don't hear the content, we hear who says it in what context, how they look, and then it may count more or less. Isn't that weird?
And then you add in money as well. So the richer someone is, they must have more power and more say, and it's all the same stuff, right? Like you say, it's the context, how somebody says something. You've frozen again. You're back.
Black. Yeah.
No, we're back. I think, yeah, we're good. Yeah. Age, money, position, all of that.
Yeah. So part of the liberation that I hope to inspire people to is also to notice these little things where we behave automatically as it all seems normal, and to question it, and not as a heavy work like plastic separation from all the other garbage and the metal from the greeneries, etc. That's work. But also as a fun thing, have deeper conversations with friends. Sometimes it's the amount of. I was part of an organization started by 4 women in South Africa at a kitchen table. That's where Margaret Mead said, it's the concerned citizens at the kitchen table who start all the big differences. 2 women who were extremely important in ending the troubles in Northern Ireland. 2 women who were just fed up with the violence. And these 4 women in South Africa were sitting at the table and talked about big issues, and set up an organization that at one point was quite global, called Pioneers for Change, and then died because new organizations came up. Pioneers for Change was very serious, and then we now had Caesar chicks, women who are believing we need corporate responsibility, and I don't know what the new organization for the young is, but for older people also, there are so many organizations and networks, also informal on social media, that talk to each other. Also with the danger, this is how jumpy my brain works, with the danger that you are in a bubble and you enforce of the bubble and the language of the bubble, and you conform to the bubble because then you belong in the bubble. And it can be about everything: aliens, angels, far right wing, far left wing, religion, etc. Take your pick.
I love what you said about asking more questions, and I was thinking when you were saying that, and about what can we do as change, I was thinking about the school, the school where my boys are, and I was individually to myself questioning. I didn't start asking it to everyone else. I was like, there seems to be a culture of normalizing the kids don't want to go to school, and as parents forcing them into school. But it's so normal, like everybody deals with it, so therefore it's normal, so therefore it must just be the way. And me going, this doesn't really feel right to me. What, like, just because it's normal doesn't necessarily mean it's okay.
This is perfect example of what I was telling. That if everybody says this is how it works, and nobody question it, it becomes a normal, or it seems a normal, but it's not normal. We once made the decision to make it like this, And if all kids don't want to go to school, that should be an uproar from all those parents together, but they don't probably have the time nor the means nor the thought that this is crazy. If children don't want to go to school, I saw a lot of interviews of Dutch Youth Journal, and when children say why they want to go to school, it's to see the other kids, their friends, but they don't say I come for the learning. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I can follow my own curiosity, and the fear is, if children would, I would suggest that even 5-year-olds perhaps can do it with all the parents, perhaps a few groups later, but why not try it with the 5-year-olds? Ask them, all the parents say, ask your biggest question. What are you most interested in? I'm most interested in dinosaurs. I'm most interested in insects. I want to explore the forest. Okay, write it up and hang it all on the wall. Confront the teacher with all those what they most love to do. And then, like the tag I mentioned in the beginning, tag game, when you would explore dinosaurs, you would explore biology, you would explore bone structures, you would explore language and names and name giving, you would explore social beliefs, you would explore how science is learning. So whatever the fuck a kid wants to know, there is so much content in there that touches up all normal school content that it is senseless to not follow their questions. It can make me angry and sad.
Me too.
Yeah. And challenge the teacher, because and at the same time you don't want to be the, how they call it, the playground mafia.
That's the tricky thing to navigate, right? Because I think the important thing for me to say at this point as well is I'm not making the school wrong. Like, they're doing their absolute best. Like, I really believe this. I'm not just saying this to like placate if anyone from the school listens to it. You know, we're in a lot of conversations with the school at the moment about where can we be a part, what, you know, and it's, for me, the dance is being on team with the school and being able to ask the questions without it turning into a fight of, I think you should do it this way, them having to defend the way they do it. And then, you know, it does turn into that, you know, I'm the troublemaker, but with that, not in a positive way. You know,
yeah, but like, here it's why it's so important why you get all teachers around or all parents around the table who recognize the story, because then it's it's also social thing. So this is something you could also put on social media, because on social media, if you say as a parent and something goes viral, also when it doesn't go viral at all, it might be you. But when it goes viral, several years ago, a Dutch guy wrote a letter to the Dutch banks and to the government about Dutch banks, and the letter went viral. So he asked very important, big questions, and the letter went totally viral because of what he asked. Because you are not the only one, and so many children suffer in school, and also remember, why is this?
Oh, I've lost you just as you were asking an important question. I just lost you then, Floris.
Something
hang on.
That school is one of the more interesting places.
I just lost you then, Floris. Everything's gone black. Bear with us, listeners.
Yeah.
We'll be back any second. Yeah, we're back. I just lost you as you were asking them the questions for the like why. You started with why, and then we lost internet. The last minute of what you said. We lost.
Here I go again. Yeah.
Yeah, we're okay. We're good. Can you hear me? I don't think Floris can hear me. Can you hear me, Floris? I can see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I try and talk?
You're back. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So when I was young, schools were the interesting place where it happened, because otherwise it was playing outside, which was also interesting, but it was equal power. But sitting in a classroom looking at rows of words that have little sense until you're 20, because most of the time you won't use them, compared to how exciting TV and movies are, which are also competing with school and games, online games, it's full time, 100%.
Yeah.
Or sit.
Yeah.
Shut up, Charlie. Yeah, hands across each other. I don't know if it's like that still, but schools compete with the rest of the world, which has become evolved enormously, and it's the same system from 150 years ago, the same rows, the same. And if you are a little bit more than modern school, the tables are in little clusters where children can collaborate more and work together on projects.
Yeah, I like
then you're
to think
already
that
a little bit lucky.
We're a little bit lucky, and there's still it feels like there's still a hangover from the past. So in the classrooms, they look a bit different. They're sat in circles, and the fundamental thing of the teacher teaching what they say today we are going to teach, versus, like you said, ask all the kids, what are you really excited in, and then going on all these adventures of what each child is. That's not there. So things are moving. They're moving bloody slowly. Considering how at the outside world, outside of the school, the world is moving at a pace that most of us can't keep up with. And yet within the school, it's like the pace of change is so slow.
To me, you sound very Alex Louise. Can I take a small pee break while we wait and hope that when I'm back, the video is streaming better again?
Yeah, go for it. Hold the line, callers. Floris is just having a bathroom break, and we're hoping the internet will soothe itself out. We're looking good, but this is the joys of, well, he's in Amsterdam, I'm in Wales, and we're managing to have a conversation that will then be on YouTube and Spotify and LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere, which in itself is magical. So it's funny how then the internet being a bit glitchy is our biggest problem. It's all relative, right? We've come a long, long way. If you are listening to this and you are interested and you are curious about schools, I think that's all there is for me to say. If you are interested in how can we, who aren't in schools, like add and serve and support teachers and create amazing things, I'd love to hear from you. Send me wherever you're listening to this, my email is readily available on my website, alexlouisethomas.com. But drop me a line, like get in touch, tell me what you think about this, tell me what you think about school. And I don't mean it like what you're dealing with, and also creating a game for doing something different. Like, actually, how do we support the schools? How do we support the teachers? Because it's not just the kids that are suffering. The teachers are suffering. The teachers are snowed under by measurements and tests and all the rest of it as well. Whereas, what we've spoken about so far in this conversation is that the kids are really struggling, and what we miss is everyone's struggling. I'm going to talk to Floris about that when he comes back. If it's not working for one, it's not working for any in a relationship, and it's the same in a system. The struggles on all fronts, and that's not in a negative way. We have a person in our kids' school who is dedicated now to well-being. It's magical. Like there's potentiality for change, and the school is up for that conversation. And I think all of us are grappling with, how do we do this differently and better? How do we compete with computer games? How do we not only survive, but how do we thrive as a system, as a people, in our schools, the adults in the schools? I'm going to add Floris back in. Floris, you're back. Hopefully the internet has settled. I was just saying for people listening, so that they don't have a big gap, about schools and anyone who wants to get in touch about, you know, their version of what they're dealing with. But also the piece here as well is that teachers aren't doing that great either, actually, is what I was thinking about. Like, our kids are struggling, but actually the teachers are struggling too. You know, they're just piled underneath curriculum and what they have to do, and marking the very tests that we're going, oh, these tests are great and let's give them to more and more people. It's like those tests need marking. So I think a lot of teachers go into teaching with how they think it'll be, and then there's how it actually is. So they've got a big struggle too. It's not, you know, it's a collaboration of struggle.
It's true. They have a lot of struggle, but also they approach it often in the wrong way. I teach also, one of the things I do in the Netherlands is teach teachers how to be more creative and inventive.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll start with one of the exercises I gave to nomads. I co-founded a school that sadly went bust with COVID because we didn't do any testing. We got no government money because we couldn't show our results in the traditional way. Though I know that of the 100 students that finished our school, I once asked, only one felt unemployed. One felt unemployed. That's 99 people who feel they have something to do that matters to them, or it doesn't count because there's no test. So one of the exercises I would give at the beginning of the school was, and we have started. And then I'd wait. And then always one of the younger one would raise their hands up. What exactly is expected of us? Or the question, how can I please you, teacher, that I get a good result? Because I don't know what to do. And I said, no, we have started. Yeah, but what should we do? Continue. And they go totally and it was to confront them with how ingrained
how old were
and
the
deep
children?
the system sits. I need to please.
Yeah.
What?
How old were the children?
These were 18 plus, like in their 20s, some even in the 30s.
Yeah.
So
cool.
this was to let them show our school is very, very different, and it's about what you want and what you want to spend your time on, and we guide you with your projects, but you should start your own project. That, like an entrepreneur, that's what you did. You started your own project. You had an idea and did it, I assume. That's entrepreneurship. This is killed in all the testing, kills a lot of potential for entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking and self-starting, because hey, we need to please the teacher. So teachers are also have a problem with the government. So there are even in the very traditional public schools, awesome teachers with golden hearts who are do their work with enthusiasm and love. They do everything right. So it's not always the alternative systems with our better. It's often the teachers. But there are also teachers who love to work like that, but they have to do all the filing for the government, write all the reports, do all the tests and work on the tests, and feel they don't have time, because the government has the awful habit, if one teacher touches one child in the wrong way, and of course this happens, they make a rule for the whole country where they make it impossible that such happen again, and still it will happen again, because if you are a bastard, you'll be just sneak a little bit smarter. But the system has become more heavy, and and slow, and teachers have more rules and regulations. They need too many teachers are working to satisfy the management of the school and not to work for and with the children. Just imagine that they need to please management, and they fear the management to not make them happy with their results. That in itself is a warped thing. So how to liberate from that is once again I propose the question for myself: how can make it interesting for me? What is my adventure with this class? What do I feel is absolutely necessary? And my sister, so it's also, I can't speak for all teachers, because my sister has forbidden me to apply for jobs in the regular system, because she said, Floris, they'll hate you and you'll hate the system. So, and I think she's right. So I work outside the system. I only go where I feel free and invited to do my things in my way. And but teachers can learn, and also if teachers recognize the questions of all those parents who say something should change, they might work with the parents and start to work with the parents and protest together. It could be a movement, but somebody has to do the work. Many people will have to do the work for it to change. Otherwise, the normal of society, everybody does it like this. Everybody says it like this. So what can we do? What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen is a question we also should ask. In the Middle Ages, you would die of hunger or be tortured. Here, you may have to bring your child to another school. The worst that could happen. Or start your own school and have a lot of different jobs. And we are not outlawed or banned for saying things anymore. So, well, we in England, I understand, or the UK, you cannot post everything on the internet. That's a different story, I think, or a political thing. But normal, reasonable people have nothing to fear when they ask critical questions.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that. What's the worst thing that can happen? You know, because like where Owen and I have gone when we're talking about it is that like where we go to what's the worst that could happen. It, you know, like just being really straight about us being parents. We're like, what if we fuck up our kids? You know, like what if we do a worse job? That's the. But then like when you put it in context of you're not going to starve, you're not going to die, you're not going to get beaten. It like it kind of gives it a bit of perspective, because that fear is big, and actually in perspective of, you know, and there's the whole thing about what if it works? Like, what does that do? You know, when it comes to either changing a school, adding things in, starting a school, you know, whatever form it takes.
Yeah, also realize that when you say to Charlie, this is also how parents do this differently, but I think it makes a huge difference. If parents say, this is how it works, you have to do it, and try to be obedient or work with the teacher. Or if you say, hey, we know it's warped and it's wrong, and we are looking with you what we can change, and for a bit you have to accept it and see how you can be free within the system, or explore or ask some questions and see what happens, is already a huge difference, because the child at least will feel supported and recognize that the parents are also struggling, because rather than parents panicking. Oh, my child is struggling in school and it doesn't want to play anymore and it has to go and I need to go. Well, otherwise the government comes to pay a visit. That's anxiety. So there you do, I think, already a great job. And it is, and it's, I think, a beautiful example of if you want to change the system, where you can start, how small you can start, and realize that many people who are very famous now did a tiny thing. Malala went to school, got shot as a result, but survived to tell the tale. That made her famous and an expert. The Summerhill schools, somebody started also a little private school, and across the world there are Summerhill schools or democratic schools where children decide together with the teachers what they'll do. So there are alternative systems, and they're spreading around the world, and individuals started those in most cases, like sitting on a table or talking on the internet with a friend who said, I recognize this needs to happen. So those things.
And yes, I read a lot about the Acton Academy that was very democratic, small, and it was started by a couple. Oh, I think we have an internet lag. Sorry, Floris. Go on.
The sound on Alex Louise, the sound on my side is very, very bad. So I only hear snippets of what you said. You talk like a movie.
Yeah, I think we have an internet issue. Mine looks okay. I don't know how yours looks. I mean, StreamYard will pick up both sides, but it doesn't help you hearing what I've just said. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
What more do we need to talk about? Or what?
Where are you going?
Investigate.
So what's next for you? What are you up to, and where are you playing, and what games do you have on? So the school that you were doing is no more. I see you at summer camp every year now, and I love that. You're involved in our community. What else are you up to?
So this weekend I'm teaching at something called Tribal Wisdom, which is, I'm an indigenous elder apparently in the Netherlands. After some indigenous elders asked me, Floris, what's the indigenous wisdom of the Dutch? And I was flustered because I think our indigenous wisdom way worse than Great Britain has been murdered, killed, overrun. We even changed our whole landscape. There's and if you find anything back from, let's say, early times, it's not religious, or it's Christianity. But what was before? No fucking clue. But we do know that certain things stayed in the Dutch mindset and have grown in the Dutch mindset because of the landscape that we've grown on. So I got interested in that. And so this weekend I'll be doing a little bit with a group called Tribal Wisdom, where we try to interest younger people into what are, like this conversation we're having now, what are important questions to ask? How do we relate to nature? How do we stay mentally healthy? I did a lot of health work myself, mental health work on myself, on my own. It was not always easy, but I learned to deal things where I feel that many modern young people don't know anymore how to deal with it, don't even know where to look or how to look for it. So they need help. If I'm the best help, that we'll have to see. But that's a thing I'm working on. I'm working on game design. So since I got stuck at home and lost all group work, I work more on game design. I'm now working on a storytelling game where there's lots of your listeners will know Dragons and Dungeons or Dungeons and Dragons, one of the two, where you have a game host and players. And I try to make a game where it feels like an adventure like that game, but there's no game host. You play together. You're responsible together for the result of the game, which I think is an essential teaching that the world reads right now. How can we be co-responsible for the whole? So in this game, I make it into a simple adventure. As you have played, I invented a philosophy game, which is laying with
my
one
leadership
English
mastermind
publisher.
loved that. Sorry, we have a lag.
It's somewhere in. It's under London. It's somewhere with a publisher who is thinking about, will we publish this or not? Perhaps, maybe. That's always an adventure because I'm very bad at that. I may be teaching a group of primary school for the highly gifted. So a small group of very highly gifted children or high sensitive children to have a little group and extra outside of the normal things for them to play in. Last year I taught at a primary school in a forest. So I love those kind of little adventures to work with young people in ways that fit me. In the forest was fun, and I did it together with the parents. And the children could decide if I could come back. And so I worked there until the summer. And after the summer, I was forgotten. Also fine. I still do some business events. Soon I'll do a mafia game with a big company. So that's where part of the income comes from. Big role-playing games with companies, or training, or teach trainers. Teach teachers is also a thing. And I'm writing on a philosophy book. And there the tough thing is, how do I structure myself? As you see, I make a lot of side leaps very quickly. Ask me about education. I talk about how management structures work in organizations. So that's a struggle. And on personal level, I'm worried about a friend who's in a hospital with a big head trauma. So I might go visit. He lives in Belgium, so I have to visit him there because who knows if he never gets the old again, which would be very much a pity. I lost quite a few friends in recent years, various reasons, which also hits home. It makes you more think about the fragility of it all. And I'm part of several movements where, also thanks to you, thank you. I go to.
Are you coming?
2 festivals this summer in England.
Amazing.
I'm coming to Elements, and then I go in Wales, and then I go to Enchanted in England. And then later in the year, I go to the Happy Startup Summer Camp, which as you mentioned already, the awesome Laurence and Carlos are running, which I love going to and doing the opening.
Yeah.
And I'm looking a little bit for a new big project that I feel I can dive into. And I recently talked about, yesterday I had a nice talk with big management games to learn how to evolve to a new society. And I feel I want to create something for schools about that. So that would be a longer term plan. So enough to do. And meanwhile,
Sorry, we've got a lag, everyone, which is what, and Floris, we've got a missing in the sound. I'd love to talk to you more about the school stuff. It's an area that I think I can't. It's in here. It's not going away. There's a world of, I kind of think I'm okay, and I'm like, we do some stuff with the school, and then I'm like, okay, that's sorted, and then it's not sorted, and it's definitely an area to foray into more for me. I think schooling is such a massive sector now that is just not working, and it's like I'm watching it break in front of me, not even like where my boys are right now, but on a bigger scale. With, we have a school that backs onto us here, which is where they send the problem children, and it's like the children are blamed, not the system, and then they're sent away to a special school, and it's like, it does feel like the wheels are coming off. We've got schools with 2,000 children in them where there's people for, just not understood and heard. And I think it's a huge sector that is breaking, that needs more. So I'd love to carry on that conversation about schools. And I feel like it's one of my next iterations, is to be in that world. And whilst I absolutely could not be a teacher, and I'm very clear about that, I'm good at bringing people together and creating things and all of that world. And whilst I would never consider myself a homeschooling mum or a teacher, I think actually creating a school, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't, it won't leave me. It's this, like, the number of books I read and the conversations I have with you about this, it's just, it's like, where do I go next? It's a huge.
Well, I co-founded 2 schools, so I know how incredibly work intensive that can be. And as you say, I don't want to be a teacher. That's perfectly fine. But one of the ways we started one school were 2 things I think are very noteworthy as a kind of tip how to do it. Also depends a little bit of the laws of your country, of the age group. We co-founded 2 schools for 1830, so we were outside the school system. So then no government funding was a problem because we never did any tests. But if you work with younger, then you have to fit in the system and the norms of society, which is also a good thing a little bit, because hey, also the crazies, cults who want to create their own homeschooling, is a given. But one of 2 things we did. One was everyone together who wanted to work on the different schools. Now immediately you got job applications, people and teachers who want to be not in the normal system and want to do it differently. They'll be, or you're not alone, and you start to spread the word. That's one thing. Another thing is, how did we create, and this also may not work with younger children, but we got our curriculum for our school. How did we do it? We ask in those gatherings, we ask at point where we start to advertise.
Lost Floris again.
Your dream project, and
it's okay, you're back.
Yeah, tell us about your dream. Tell us about your dream project. We would ask the people, and people would share their dream project, and not everyone, but certainly certain amount of people would share their dream project. And then we would cluster them in little groups and ask them, what is the way to fill that dream project? How can you realize that dream? And they would list a whole lot of things like endurance, networking, having designs, social skills, leadership, and then we say whatever they said. We said that list is the curriculum of our school. So a curriculum of a school is what you need to realize your dreams. It's not what we thought would be important. It's what people felt they were lacking,
Yeah.
and we could help them with. And of course, if they said, I want to be a bicycle, invent a new kind of bicycle, technically, for all the technical stuff, you had to go somewhere else because we were not in the, but all the how do I organize it was part of what we did in the school. And all the social skills and personal skills you needed to develop, and how to develop your own dream, and where do you what we talked also in the beginning, where do you start to shine? Those things we asked, and then we guided them through a process which had a personal elements. It had group growing development elements, and it had real world projects, because if young people, even 5-year-olds, help clean the street, do something that makes a difference in their street, they feel connected to their society, which is also very, very important. And our students ran into real customers who sometimes also are vague and confused. What do I want? I don't know really what I want, but I have this issue and I don't know how to get away it. And then, as a good consultant, students should be able to ask, is it that the real problem, or is how you look at it the real problem? And if you have puzzled that out, what would then be next steps? So to create a circle where people feel the space, recognize each other, and feel and the fire in their eyes, and say, yeah, we want to do this, and but I don't want to do that, and you find people who fill in the gaps of everything that's needed. It's a slow process, but it's a way to start. And if you can't find enough people, then apparently the idea is going to die. And is that a problem? No. That's also, then apparently you were too on your own. But if you get 1,000 people visiting, you are definitely, or even 40 in Newport. Was Newport, was it?
Yeah.
Get 40 people around the table or join in a room. You already know you are onto something. And then it depends how much are the others willing to work and take risks and share the burden of making that change happen. You could be the director of a new school, or the consultant, or the commissionary who advises from a board. You don't have to be the teacher.
Yeah, and we go full circle then back to it takes everything. It takes all the pieces.
What, the server or the people?
So it takes all the people, we broken up. Yeah, so we need to do a school. It takes everyone, and it's full circle back to any project community. It takes all of the people. It's not it's not just teachers or just children or just parents or just the cooks or the food producers or whoever. It's the whole deal. It takes all the different skills to do anything, and the school is no different, for sure.
Yeah, well, but one way is to start with talking about it and see if it echoes back and people say, wow, I'd love to be part of that. And if nobody responds, then no, don't do it. But if enough people start to respond or say, hey, I would like to contribute this, you're onto something. I'm a creative, so 8 of the 10 projects I start die. They die or get killed off. We don't have a budget for it. We don't want to do it, etc. But if 1 in 10 reaches fulfillment, geez, that's already a high number if it comes to creative ideas. And I would be totally. So here's one thing to help you design a school, or options for concepts for a school, or what is possible. That's a way. If you say, hey, who wants to dream together with a foreigner about what more school systems are possible, you may already have a fun start. And if the room is full of 20 people, you know, and they start dreaming, then try to hold them back. That's also what you do. You start, you know, you are the person to lead such a project. You know how to bring people together and get them moving on a dream. Alex Louise.
No pressure. I like what you said about projects and failing and just starting to talk about it. And it's the dealing with, like, actually 9 out of 10 projects fail, and being with that and then giving it a go anyway, rather than going, oh, but I don't know if it'll work, maybe it won't work, maybe I shouldn't. Actually just start talking about it and see who else is out there is a really, not just for me in this situation, but also for people listening. It's like, just start talking about it. It's so obvious when you say it, and yet it's such profound advice to, like, well, just start talking about it, find other people, see who's interested, because there's who I think will be interested, and then there's the quiet people that never say anything, that go, oh, actually, yes, I'm interested in this, I've seen that in my children, yes, I'd like to be involved, including the school. You know, maybe the school's interested in doing a trial run of a different type of schooling with the parents who are also interested in trying something new, and it's like, actually just to start talking about it is such brilliant, it's such brilliant advice. And I think that's the bit I haven't been you know, I have talked about it, and then I've gone, I don't know how to make it work, so I stop, and actually just keep talking about it and keep bringing people together.
Yeah, when I talk to a whole room of people, there's often somebody asking a stupid question. They think it's a stupid question, and they worry about it, and they shut up. And then yeah, Floris, you said about this, but I couldn't follow. Can you explain again, please? That person is a hero, and they're not stupid. They are often framing what a lot of people thinking the same way, but don't dare to say out loud because they're afraid to feel stupid. So the courage to ask the big question is often part of what needs to happen. Somebody start to speak out and get people in the room. That's where every change starts. Build a campfire and have people around the campfire that is there for a reason. It's that simple in a way, and then still a load of work has to be done. But if enough people buy into the work, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Both the schools I co-founded are dead and gone. Both were amazing adventures. Both were beautiful adventures. I'm still in touch with some of the teachers and even students. I had less than 1 year in my group. I'm still in touch with some because of how intensively, beautifully we work together, which is also part of the reward. And and this is I'm going to show you a book because I always forget the title. And not that you should buy the book because it's very but I think I mentioned it to you before.
The Geography of Genius. I don't know.
Yes.
Ring a bell.
And the book is about in the Renaissance in Florence, there was this time where such an enormous amount of creative artists start to do something new and create the Renaissance by thinking new things, and they inspired each other to make things different. The same as what we tried last summer in your garden. That's what you did. You brought people together and they inspired each other to try something new. Now, how much got born out of that, I don't know, but it fired them up, and it made them rethink and or think about what more is possible.
Yeah.
The same McSweeney's is a small book publisher in the United States, where a group of creatives create their own book publisher, and they inspired us, and many became famous. The most famous is Dave Eggers, and several other novelists came out of that because they fired each other up to become great novelists. In Paris, of the time of Van Gogh and the Impressionists, they were. So this is, and in Glasgow is mentioned in the book, where there was a time in Glasgow where everybody was into science and firing and each other up to do new science and new discoveries and research things more, and it became a hotbed of change. There was a time when in the Arab world it was way more ahead of Europe than we'd like to admit, because they had this open attitude towards anything new and were on a field of discovery. Or the ancient Greek philosophers, the periods when there were several at the same time alive, and they were firing each other up by asking the big questions. So these hotbeds of clusters of people who are inspired, fired up. I was part of such a group in the Netherlands, where many of them have now great careers, because how we inspired and fired each other up to try things different, go for it, and follow your dreams, and they're doing that in very different ways. And then the network fell apart, but that's okay. It was you could say a golden time of people supporting and working together. And Alex Ruiz, then we come back to you, because that's what you do. You create those, or one seek to create those atmospheres and that willingness. So if you want to see change, you're probably one of the farmers who works with seedlings, or brings seedlings together and help them to give each other water. That's an awesome profession. You may at some point think, I want to do something new. Totally fine. Don't feel pushed.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think there's a real freedom in calling it a dance and accepting that things fail and giving things a go anyway, and having that, that there's pressure and there's no pressure, and there's a freedom in that changes the context for going into something. It's not going in dark and heavy and this must be done. It's actually let's play here and let's see the difference we can make. And I think one of the things for me is, I know that I'm good at bringing people together. I know that I'm good at doing various things, and there's I think that, to bring it back to the beginning, it's the choosing which area to go and play in. Do I stay in the playing with money and adults? Do I go and play in the school world? There's the whole farming world that we're building up to be able to go into, and also they're all completely linked, like money and schools and farming and community and children. It's like that they're also all one. There's not really any separation. And I think the bit that for me that's interesting at the moment is being in this amazing place to be able to think about it, have amazing conversations like this, to be able to go, where is it that I want to be? That's then I can go there with shiny eyes, not go there because something's wrong and it needs fixing. And then also for me, what I love is integrating all of it, like not having this is all I do, because that it's not how I want to play. So yeah, nice problem to have, right? Oh, which one shall I play with? And play being a serious word, not being flippant about it. And I think this conversation and other conversations that I've had since meeting you and Laurence and Carlos and Charlie have just been mind-blowing to be able to explore it in a way that it's not a normal conversation, to talk about these things and really consider deeply which way to go and where to have an impact and which people to bring together, and also to be supported in a way. Like, I remember being at summer camp with you and Case and Charlie and just being like, oh my God, I have so much support that whatever I say to you guys, like, I really want to do this, I know that there's this, you know, like galvanizing support of, okay, you know, it's going to be hard work, let's do it. So I really appreciate the conversations and the questions and the wisdom, you know, to actually be able to speak it out loud. And also, you know, the same of, there are people that listen to this podcast and then comment or will say something, or it leads a different way. So the fact that there are listeners means that this conversation happens. And again, the whole thing is just, it's a magical journey to be on. It really is.
Yeah, just the realization that space for people to reconsider, think, and stimulate each other is already gold in a society where too many just continue working and do the obligatory things.
Yeah.
That's what you describe, that to create the space, the free zone, the playground for personal and societal development. And in his book Homo Ludens by Johan Huizinga, which is a cult book for people who love play, he says society is not possible without an element of play. When there's no place to play or try something new, society is dead. So play spaces, when it comes to adult committed play, to consider and reconsider and try something new, are gold, are absolute necessity in society. Hence, art is also often in financially, you know, the problem with artists is they help society, but you don't know where and how the money comes from. But try to think away all art. Try to see Paris without Eiffel Tower, Barcelona without Gaudi. Take all art out of a society and it's dead. It's the Soviet flats. You know, who wants to live in Soviet flats? You don't know. You know, it costs money to create paintings on walls, but without society, it feels awful. Nature, same with nature. You know, nature even more important, because without nature we are dead. And the Dutch farmers are shouting, "Without farmers, there's no food." And I will shout to the farmers, "Without nature, there's no farmers." There, and without play space, we are in a totalitarian society. So the creating, facilitating, and hosting play spaces or free spaces is absolutely essential, Alex Louise, even if it feels like work. I'm sorry. It is work, and it's essential work.
Yeah. And the reality is, most of the time, it doesn't feel like work.
To walk in the park.
Yeah.
Exactly. To me, it also doesn't feel like work. I get paid to walk in the park because that's where sometimes I start to go to think through, think of how will I phrase, what examples will I use, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we keep our gleaming eyes, then are shining with, wow, I love this, then that's also giving something, because people love seeing people loving what they do. And they want to have that too. And if we can help them have it, that's like fresh bread, a beautiful thing on offer.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And then sometimes I make mistakes and don't like it so much, and that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah. Well, having a risk that you might not like it at some point versus having your nose to the grindstone and hating every minute is worth it. Right?
Yeah, can you say that again, because the sound was
Yeah, sure. So having the risk that sometimes it might feel like hard work or might sometimes not feel that great is better than the guarantee of, you know, misery and nose to the grindstone and it being hard and horrible all the time. You know, it's yeah, that there's a balance there.
Yeah, and you can always go to back to your old life if you try something new and you don't like it. Most of the time you can back to your old life. Last
Yeah.
year I went to a storytelling theater twice because I thought, let's try this. I haven't done this in a while. Let's see. So there was an open stage night, and I challenged myself, go to the open stage night and ask the audience if they have a live question, and then based on that live question, I would tell a fairy tale in the moment. I was struggling a little bit, and later realized, oh, I should have told. I felt it was very healthy to challenge myself to do something where I feel, oh, this will put me on an edge. This is dangerous. I could suck. But what I think many actors know is that if you are on stage and you might suck, you get sometimes a sharpness that makes you more present. You know, if in the risk we get sharp, we only do the we fall asleep. We get alive when we challenge ourselves to do something new. So adding this to what we all talked, everything we talked about before, if you don't like the job, looking ways and testing ways to escape, and is a valid way. And even if it's tiny experiments, they might become bigger and bigger if you feel safe in it, or start to care less about what other people think, because this too is a prison. What will others think? What will I think? I work a lot also with something called the Way of the Fool. So I give workshops, the Way of the Fool, which is about which says you, on one hand, you need to be free of your own inner judgments and outer judgments, and you need to be aligned. It is like British tourists on a Spanish beast sinking drunkenly in the night, irritating everyone. That's freedom without alignment. But freedom with alignment is daring to speak up at a social meeting, say in an elder meeting of all parents and the school. Raise your hand and ask the difficult question you feel many people have, but nobody dare to ask. That's freedom in alignment, and that's powerful. That's where wisdom starts often. To have those two at the same time. So it's not learning one or the other, or be free or adjust. No, be aligned and free to find what works for you best, help serving the moment or the situation.
Yeah, I love that. And the two pieces together, the freedom and the alignment, like that's the magic recipe versus one or the other. And yeah, having the two together.
Yeah, or thinking it should be one or the other. No, it can be both at the same time, which is paradoxical. It's the same as seriousness and play. It's a paradox, and a paradox is really means a seeming opposition, not a real opposition. Play is fucking serious.
Yeah.
I once, and I discovered this one also in a fun way in an education. It was about conflict, how to deal with conflicts in school. So the teachers ask, who has a problem with any other student, and we'll see if we can make a conflict there, and then see how we deal with conflict. So one student raised their hand and said, Floris, I want to pick Floris. And he said to me, Floris, you take everything so lightly, and life is serious, you are way too superficial and playful, and but it's not that easy. And I heard myself saying back, you don't take life serious enough, because life is both the heavy and the light. It's both the trouble and the bad things that happen, but it's also the playfulness and the enjoyment, and looking for enjoyment and embracing the enjoyment as much as you accept when it hurts. That's life. And I thought, fuck, it's true. If you take life very seriously, you also go dance and play. Otherwise, you live only half your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. In the learning balance, I think that's one of the things I've been learning about, and I would do the too much of one and not the other side of it. It's really powerful. I think Floris has frozen, or maybe I have. It's hard to know which internet is going wrong.
So that might be fast.
You're back.
I was gone for a bit, yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying that
in half
I love that seriousness. The seriousness of, if you really take life seriously, you take play really seriously as well. And I think the journey I've been on lately is that I've done too much of like I haven't had balance. So I've done a lot of work and then not done all of the other bits. And like that balance is magic.
Yeah. We need to play, take play more seriously, to have a balanced life and to embrace the whole of life. And I play a lot, and I do a lot of what I call social experiments. And in those social experiments, I learn so much for myself, but also for others. For the people who have not met me, one of the social experiments I was so proud of and so happy with was, and it seemed like play. So I was creating a big party called the Fairy Tale of Reality. And there was a counter, in an old building. This was an old justice building. There was a traditional counter, like a oval on the top and a flat bottom. And I thought, what shall we put behind the counter? You know what? We put kids behind the counter, and we call it the counter for life questions. And then adults come, and children will answer the life questions of the adults. Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah. It's for one party. I expect nothing to come out of it, but I think it's fun for the kids and the adults. Yeah. And we opened the party. The party opened. There were kids I had trained, and I trained them in a special way. They could only answer the question of the adults if they understood the question. So if they didn't understand the question because adults were too complicated, they should ask, "Now, what do you really mean?" Until they got it. Yeah. And after 15 minutes after the party had started, a woman comes to me and says, Floris, I think I need 6 months of therapy to admit the child is right. And I go, what the fuck is happening here? Jesus Christ. What have I unleashed? And later, I did the same thing in a festival where 12 children were running it daily. They treated more than 80 parents and adults. And at the end, they demanded the microphone to say to the whole audience how much they had loved. Because can you imagine for a kid what it means when an adult comes to you and it takes you seriously?
Listen.
You feel you
Yeah.
matter. So it boosted their self-confidence and self-worth, skyrocketed. And a lot of adults learned, oh, children are not empty vessels we throw information in. They actually have a heart and a meaning and they see through us. Shit. They see through our bullshit so many times. It was so valuable, and it was born out of a crazy idea where I thought, let's do this. And I do these crazy ideas more often. And I learned so much from it, but other people also, like those kids, man, it was a golden moment for them. The next year at the same festival, they ran it on their own without me interfering or helping. They started to do it as this is the trick we do and how it should work. And
and
it was okay too. And but that glorious moment was important, very important for them, and the ones who did still remember. And I think in our society we do not take enough space to do such crazy things and experiments. Shall I tell another experiment I did?
Yeah, do. They're brilliant. Go for it.
So on another festival was a kind of spiritual self-development festival, like a bit like Elements, and they brought in a satsang teacher. A satsang teacher is a spiritual wise teacher who is a little bit more advanced. And I was actually against it because I thought people must be able to do that themselves. So I created something called Guru Battle. So there would be a chair, and participants, everybody who came to the workshop, they could choose to sit in the chair and be the guru for everybody else for 2 minutes. Then we would vote, can you stay in the chair? And the one who would sit the longest in the chair would win the battle. So gurus battling, who is the best guru? It's insane. It seemed insane. And I did it out of spite and irritation and provocation.
Yeah.
And then things happened. The first woman who sat in the chair, because the people had to choose among them who would sit in the chair. You could not say, I want to, because there was ego. You had to be pointed out. One woman, very insecure woman, said, yeah, but not me. And then a guy asked, okay, I have a question. I'm in a divorce, and how do you deal with that? And this woman, already insecure, goes totally white in her face. So I'm also thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Jesus. Oh. And then she tells so beautifully, because she also was in a divorce, and she told so beautifully, honestly, how it was to be ripped apart and because of a separation. The whole room was stunned. And she was chosen to stay seated in the chair for one more time. And she couldn't believe it, because in her own mind, she just told only fragile things. And then I discovered I was actually giving a workshop. When are you speaking true? Where does it come from? How do we recognize it? Why do we recognize it? All big questions. When are you picking up some essence? And where does it work? And when doesn't it work? And what's the difference? And so it became a beautiful workshop I've given in several cities in the Netherlands because they asked for it. So once again, playfully provocative, even a little bit of spite to the organization. Led to me taking an experiment that led to things that also made me, because to host it, I totally was, oh my God, am I doing? What's happening? Why is it happening? Very educational also for myself. And some people had awesome moments when they discovered shit. I had them, and some people had awful moments. I remember one person who believed she was a great teacher in the advanced teacher. So she said, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and she talked how she talked, and it didn't work. And the person after her was a woman who, when somebody asked a question, she said, "You ask a question in a whining tone. You just want to be confirmed you're good, busy. You do the well. When you have a real question, come back. Somebody else." And everybody, yeah, perfect. That was. There's some girls have this total honesty.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And so, to me, these are all, I take risks that I see not many people take. And each time I discover there's a reality there that says, actually, what we take for granted might not be it. Another one is I invented a sport with a friend, and we thought this is a sport. You cannot win at the cost of the other. So all team sports are actually tribal ritual warfare without any death. But still, football, two teams against each other. We know how it goes. It's our colors against them. Even if 80% of all the players are hired and come from other countries, even doesn't matter. This is our team. Yes, we all pretend it's us against them. And in this sport, we took that away. You can score, but if you win score a point, you have to give that point away to another team. There's 5 teams in the field. And some people who believed every competition drives achievement. It's not true. A lot of people kept running in the game. I played with 30 civil servants from a city. At 30 degrees Celsius, they still kept running and playing hard, scoring, and then having to give the points away. And so the scoring didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I discovered it's the playing together that mattered, and the excitement of I score a ball, and it doesn't matter. Only 6% of people really are targeted by profit and gain and can I win. 6% of people. Psychologically, I discovered later. But the rest, so the whole also school, you need to compete. What for? If I get good marks for my school numbers, doesn't matter, it's lower than somebody else's. In the end, I'm very different, and they either hire me or him because of our social skills or our attitude. Or not. Nobody asked me ever about my school marks ever later.
No.
Nobody. No. Doesn't matter. So in this game, we discovered people really. So the whole myth of competition drives achievement is a myth. And if we then look honestly at all big corporations, they are clusters of people where most people inside the corporation are just collaborating. And the better they collaborate, the better the company is competing. But it's not about competition, it's about the quality of collaboration within. So we are, and forests even are big networks of balances and also collaboration. Trees collaborate on a way deeper level than we ever thought. So we need to start wondering, are we not organizing our system, our whole society on totally the wrong concepts, ideas, and convictions that are not essential to how life essentially works? And then would be the deeper way to align with how it really works and evolve our own freedom to work in a way that we align in the best way for us and for how we work with others.
And I suspect when you're saying that, if it's anything like it feels to me, especially over the last few months of reading different books and looking at, collaborating versus competition and all of that world, it feels right. It makes sense. Like when you said only 6% of people actually want competition, it just feels right. And I see it in my clients. And we're so like, you have to compete. Like we've all been to school. Like most people have been to school. So we've got this thing that we should be this way, but we really know that we're not this way and we don't like it. But we also think we're the only ones that aren't this way and everyone else is out there competing. And as soon as everyone starts to hear that, no, I don't like competition either. No, I don't want to do that. It's like, oh, thank God. It's like the soul got heard.
Yeah. There's a book out by a guy called, I think, Brian Klaas, on how the wrong people end up at the top. So the ones that do compete and want to compete at the top, they always end up at the top. They spread the message and the world according to what they believe is the winning strategy because they won. And they don't realize that everyone who doesn't want to win is not competing with them, but probably a nurse working for the NHS, really doing the things that matter, taking care of people. So we also see that people climb in make promotion after promotion. And sometimes, often they say, it's enough. I don't need to be higher. I have enough. I want to spend time with friends and family. And this is also Anglo-Saxon American a little bit more. I live to work, but in reality, we work to live. And it needs to be a healthy balance. And so the myth of the competitors and all the movies with heroes who are mostly psychopaths, they can, John Wick can shoot 50 people in 1.5 hours of movie and not blinch his eye and not have PTSD, whereas most normal people would have totally PTSD. And we need
after
more
the first one and then stop. They wouldn't even get to 150. They'd do one and then go, oh my God, then that'll be the end of the movie.
Yeah, and when John Wick shoot 50, I'm wondering, all the parents of all those people he shot, how many had their son making a wrong life decision and thought he needed to do something, the things we don't see. So the of competition is destroying our society, but it's kept on continued because it makes money for the richest who benefit the most from the system that being like that. That's hence also all the fear of communism. Now, I'm not a communist. I don't believe in communist because it just often ends up with being the same, like with the party. And Stalin is also a new Tsar, and it's the same as being the richest. Richest still seem to be a little bit more diverse, but and communism is very close to fascism, and then you're on the right side, and in the middle is democracy, is the farthest away from communism. But there is something on the left side where we say we are one society and we have to carry it together. It's what the little human groups we spoke at the beginning did around the campfire, and the diversity of talents and personalities made up a healthy group when the anxious person was the guard of the group and would be aware of lions and or attackers, and the one taking care of and treating the sick was the mother was important, and the daring who really killed animals on the hunt was important to the group. And now we say only the hunters are really important and the killers, and they get everything, and the rest get scraps, and they're a burden. Is deeply wrong.
Crazy.
It's so deeply wrong and crazy.
And I think people know it it feels deeply wrong.
They
And
know
the
it
more
feels
conversations
deeply
like
wrong,
this that
but
happen,
we are told to fear communism as if that's the only alternative.
Yeah.
If it's a line, but it's a ball, what we can choose with our society. In the Netherlands, interestingly enough, the flower market is a collaborative. So the flower market, Dutch flower market, is a cooperative. So all flower producers bring their flowers to the flower market that sells all the flowers, and the profit the flower market make is also shared among all the co-owners, which is all the flower growers. They are doing all well because of this.
Yeah.
The fruit tailors, I don't know the English word, if you do fruit gardens, they sell directly to supermarkets for enforced prices and are struggling to make ends meet because the supermarkets determine the price. If they all the fruit growers would be a collaborative or a cooperative, they could say we sell together for a price that we help set and feels fair for both sides. And in South Korea, I yesterday heard from a guy. There's a whole cooperation where it's a collaboration where all the agricultural people sell directly to certain members of the consumers who. So you become a member of a whole network of things where you were a member of the food industry, and the money goes directly to the agricultural people and not to everything in between, because they own the whole thing, and while the agricultural people are making prices, try to make the prices so that everybody can eat. That also is not about selling for the most profit. It's how can I be of service to society. It's not about getting rich. So many people feel rich is what I need to be safe. But in a healthy society, we're all safe. I live in a very rich society that if I have no work and no money, there's options for me to not be on the street and be somewhere safe and have food. It also gives me a little bit more space to take risks. So everything is interwoven, and we need to question what do we live by? How do we live by it? What is really true? If something else is really true than what we live, how can I live that better? And then, strangely enough, the conspiracy theory people also believe we need to have food forests where we can find food. And the people on the left who think the corporations shouldn't own everything think the same thing. So that's also a little bit where they start meeting each other. And then they keep fighting each other. Because what you say is untrue. What you say is untrue. What you say is crazy. What you say is crazy. Food forests seems like a good idea. Integrated agriculture seems like a good idea. Collaboratives of communities who make everything work amongst themselves seem like a good idea. Finding out together how it works seems like a good idea. Why? And everyone who's a part of that, and it's a lot of people. I'm in the Netherlands, part of, you could say, several of those networks, without even being a member on paper, because some of these networks aren't on paper. But they have very valuable big conversations, and they lead to projects and change. And the government slowly goes from regulating, slowly, at least parts of the Dutch government go from regulating to facilitating. So if the civilians want something, they help to achieve it. And that's wonderful. That's hopeful. That's actually the support you want from your government. If we want something and you say we don't have all the money for it, how can you help us do it, rather than say that's forbidden, that's not, and that's the rule, and etc. Same as with children. There's not one rule for all children. Some children should learn to shut the fuck up because they're annoying. Others need to learn to speak up and perhaps be disturbing a little bit, because for their inner courage and social courage they're too shy.
Yeah.
The first time I came too late at my drama school, full of hippies and artists, I got applause because I was always anxious to be on time. And I came too late. I got applause. I was so afraid of punishment and harsh words, and I got applause. And it helped me so much to be a bit more relaxed towards the whole time thing, because I was too uptight about it. And seeing how different people have to learn something different and making space for that is, I think we did 3 hours 10 minutes.
I think we did, Floris. This is possibly a good time to wrap up. And
I think I tried already 3 times. Kind of. This is a nice closing. You have to do the closing.
I loved our conversation, and the thing that I love about my podcast is that this conversation keeps going, because there'll be loads of stuff that you said that's like, it's in there and it's starting to work, and then over the next few days ideas come out, and so I'm really grateful for your time and your wisdom and your questions and your ability to take play seriously and teach those of us who maybe are not so great at it, to like invite us over to that balanced way. And also, I think you're the first person I've met who's done it in a way that I understand. You're not just telling me, oh, you should have more fun. Because when people say that to me, I'm like, I don't know what that fucking means.
Yeah,
like,
fun is also...
Whereas when you say take play seriously, I'm like, okay, I can get down with that. That's important. I love that today.
Play is not always fun. Play can also be full of frustration, because play is learning.
100%. Yeah,
it is sometimes very frustrating. I tell proudly about the Counter for Life questions, but you can understand my anxiety and some of the parents' anxiety when I said, "You're gonna try this." I was sweating. Will it work? And I had to leave the children alone to do the counter, because they were running it, not me whispering what they should answer. And the same with the guru thing, and those are wild experiments. Play is full of struggle and frustration, but that's play. But at least it's more enjoyable, and it feels more alive than tonight. For everyone, as an experiment, if you have a partner and you do the dishes, do some singing in it, like you're in a Disney movie. Why not? See what happens.
I love that. And let us know how it goes.
You know how it goes, and the other will totally. And often, if the other gets scared, they will shut it down. This may happen, that the other shuts it down because they're scared of God. Can I liberate myself? Do I dare to allow liberation? And then you see that we hold ourselves back when we want to play with things, and others hold us back. And that's an important conversation, because we should not hold each other back. We should help each other to shine.
And on that bombshell, let us wrap up.
Thanks for
listening, everybody.
It has been a pleasure.
Let's end the live stream.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'll stay here a little bit for the after talk, but
yes, awesome.
Bye, everyone.
We will say goodbye to everybody else.